Hello, everybody. Welcome back to No Buzzwords. Thanks for tuning in on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and if it's sneaking onto any other platforms we're not aware of. Today we have in studio Kyle Wood.
What's up?
From Woodwork Tattoo and Manette, Woodwork Tattoo and Gallery.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to talk tattoos and everything else.
Tattoos in Kitsap.
Tattoos in Kitsap.
So what's the gallery part? So, I mean, like what makes it a gallery?
That was the name in the beginning because we actually did have a gallery in Paulsbo when he started up. Like it was just me and two other people, and then the whole front space was like a gallery space where he had like different artists bringing in paintings and whatnot. There's this guy Corey Bennett in Paulsbo. He had a bunch of his paintings up there, and then we just stuck the name, but like the gallery portion has kind of disappeared so much. We do have a side room right now that's like it's called the Cove, which is like my sister-in-law Sarah. She kind of took over that spot and sells like a bunch of like different merch, like keychains and paintings and pictures and whatnot. So I say it's still kind of a gallery, but more of like a little store over there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would have expected it to be the other way around. I started with tattoos and then opened a gallery.
Yeah, I mean, it was all at once. You know, I was trying to do something a little bit different than like the other shops I had been in around here. And I had traveled around a lot and seen a bunch of different styles and ways to do tattoos or tattoo shops. There's this shop called Reclamaire down in Sacramento, and they had kind of a gallery set up. I was like, oh, kind of try to mimic that a little bit. So like all of our walls and stuff were on wheels for a bit, so it's like you could move things to the side and then open it up. So just I don't know, just kind of a different feel than the other shops I'd been in.
Yeah. So how'd you get started?
So I started tattooing just a couple months before my last deployment in the Army. It was kind of, my son was born just a few months before my last deployment, and I was freaking out, like, how am I going to make money? Like, I didn't want to stay in. I was doing the whole, like, 4 years, get in, get out, and then I got stop loss for, like, another 3 years. At the time, nobody was getting out in my job, so kind of worked out because my son was born. So I needed a little bit more cash anyways at the time. But, yeah, I didn't want to stay in. I wanted to get out and go to school. So I had met my platoon sergeant at the time. His neighbor was a tattoo artist for about 6 years before he joined the military. But his son was born with some disability, so he joined the military for the healthcare and whatnot.
Right.
So he was tattooing in his garage the whole time,
Wow.
like on the side. And he had told me that he tattooed in Iraq, like his last deployment, made like $100,000 on the side.
Whoa.
And just sent all the cash home because, yeah, you're on a fob in the middle of the desert and there's no other tattoo artists, and people are sitting around and have cash, tax-free money, nothing to spend it on. So this guy was like an S4, an S4 guy. He was like an E7, so he didn't really leave the fob, and he was working basically like a 9 to 5 on the fob, and then he would tattoo at night. Highest bidder every day.
Wow.
And I had grown up drawing, so it was just. And how I had met him was one of my soldiers. This guy Zebulon Zeiler. Was
Zebulon.
Such a cool name.
Zeiler.
Right? Yeah. Guy's actually from Eastern Washington. Real cool guy.
Really?
He sounds like what's that guy's name? Crunk from like Emperor's New Groove.
Sweet.
Like a really deep voice, the coolest name.
Dude,
and the coolest
we
voice.
want him on the podcast.
You really do.
If he's around town, tell him that we want to have him on.
Yeah. But I had drawn something for him, and he was getting it tattooed by this guy, and yeah, like he was just tell me basically how he did it and everything. So it kind of gave me an idea, and ended up buying a bunch of equipment, ended up buying an autoclave and everything that I thought I was going to need to make it a year in Iraq tattooing. And I just practiced on grapefruits and oranges in my kitchen until the deployment. And then my wife at the time sent me like a tough box with all my equipment like 2 months into the deployment. I started tattooing in Iraq for a year.
Wow.
So
Holy cow.
And I don't recommend it. I did not know what I was doing. There's a lot of crappy tattoos in Iraq, but no one else was doing it. So
How many did you think you did?
oh man. So I had the roster at the end of the year, and I went through and like highlighted everyone I tattooed. I think out of like 120 guys, I tattooed almost 80.
Wow.
So yeah, majority of my unit came home with a Kyle Wood tattoo.
That's
I think
cool.
we called it Bumblebee tattooing at the time because we were literally in a hooch. It was a tent, and and you would hear buzzing as you went by, and they're like, "Oh, what's that noise?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's some bees in there." So, but I didn't get caught by the commander until like the very last month, and he poked his head in looking for our platoon sergeant, and he's like, "Sir, what the hell are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know." He went to go tell the first sergeant, like, "You know what Sergeant Wood's doing back there?" And first sergeant rolled up his sleeve, and he had a whole sleeve done by me throughout the year.
Awesome.
So I was just like, "Yeah, I know." So I didn't get any trouble. Got saved on that one.
That's good.
He
tattooed the right guy.
He didn't want to get a tattoo when he poked his head in?
Oh, no. Our Captain John Beck, was not getting tattooed anytime soon. I don't know.
Straight laced.
Yeah, he was an interesting fellow. Yeah. But just a tall, I think he played like tight end and like football and stuff. He was like 6'7", huge guy, but just very, he literally introduced himself like that. "I'm Captain John Beck." You know, it's just like, it's like, all right, dude.
Am I in a comic book?
Yeah. He was an interesting guy.
So what was that first? I mean, so you get over there, you get all your stuff, and the very first time you put pen to paper, essentially.
Oh yeah,
the very first tattoo you did. What was that?
I did a couple practice ones before we left. I maybe had like 5 or 6 tattoos under my belt at the time.
Okay.
And they were all horrible. But yeah, I really had no business tattooing, but I did it. So
that's kind of how you got to start out, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming the first tattoo is always a bad one.
Not necessarily. I mean, if you have a good mentor and you're doing things the right way, and you're using practice skin, you're using this skin, you're using, your first tattoo should
skin.
be. Yeah.
That is the like, creepiest term I've heard all
it's
morning.
It's rubber, man. It's
just, I know,
yeah.
but I just love the
lotion
sound
on
of
the skin.
Yeah.
Practice skin.
No, they have like fake hands and arms and feet and legs. They got all sorts of like fake body parts you can use.
Yeah.
It's not entirely similar to tattooing, but it's close, and give you a good feel for it.
Yeah.
But if you understand how to use the machine properly and you practice lines several times, you practice on grapefruit several times, when you do finally transfer over to skin, the biggest thing is just it's scary, and it moves and it bleeds.
Yeah.
But like, as long as, you've had a good mentor and you're learning how to use your wrists and how to move properly, it shouldn't be too bad. The first couple should be good. But if no one's teaching you and you're just trial and error the whole time, it's like, how deep are you supposed to go?
Oh gosh.
What kind of size needle are you supposed to be using for this and that? And then, so I had books and stuff that I had bought, but I don't know, and just
jumped in
trying to watch clips from like TLC, like what was that show, Miami Ink or something?
Yes.
Like, what are they doing here? Rewind. Let's skip past all the drama and try to get to the tattoo to try to figure something out.
Yeah, the 30 seconds of actual tattooing.
Yeah, that's what I had to work with at the time. Now, I mean, if you look up YouTube, there's tattoo tutorials, like thousands of them. Like literally thousands of them, and it's just people are just giving away all the secrets. You don't have to figure anything out anymore. It's there for you if you want to know.
Have you ever seen it's called Smarter Every Day is the YouTube channel, and he does it's like really zoomed in slow motion of like what a tattoo needle is actually doing.
Yeah.
And like how it works. It's fascinating. I didn't realize it's like multiple needles at the end of that, at the end of the gun.
Yeah. So it's almost like different size paintbrushes. So if you have like, a lot of hairs on a paintbrush versus just a few, same thing. So it's like 35 millimeter needles or 30 millimeters, depending on like if it's a bug pin or a long taper. And we can go into details that aren't going to make any sense to you, right? But or I think of it like a gauge needle. Like, I don't know if you have any medical background, but like a 14 gauge needle is going to be a lot different than like a 21 or something like that. But so yeah, same kind of thing. Like how thick the needles are, and then your groupings are what give you different looks, different textures and stuff. So it's just a single needle is not going to look like, I think the biggest one I usually use is like 14 for a line, like 14 needles put together at a time. And then for shading, like I'll use like a 27. So it's like a paintbrush. And it's called a magnum. So like the needles are laced like that so they don't tear up the skin. Like they would saw the skin if they were together, but if they're spaced out, kind of.
Oh,
like
interesting.
A paintbrush.
Huh.
But you got like 100 years of people figuring out different ways to put needles together.
Yeah. We've got a buddy in prison, and we visit him from time to time. And he let me know that, of course, there's plenty of tattooing happening in prison. Do you think there's more pride in getting a tattoo underway or getting a tattoo in prison?
I've never been to prison.
No,
I don't know.
but I mean, the people who come out like, I got this on deployment. The guy,
Honestly, never been to prison. I don't really know anyone in prison. It's just not a lifestyle I've ever really been. Yeah, been pretty square, I guess.
Yeah, I was not implying that you had been to prison.
I don't know the pride of prison tattooing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But anyways, he said that usually it's pretty janky, but here at the Washington Corrections Centers, they're putting together like a real legit, when just within the prison system, the prisoners are actually setting it up, and they're bringing them all the nicest gear and everything, and so they're going to get to do something really nice instead of whatever,
sharing hepatitis with everybody.
Yeah, whatever strange methods they had figured out before that. But anyways, that's a separate issue.
I guess prison, like, they do have like job programs. You're supposed to learn a trade while you're in prison, so you can get out and get a job.
Yeah, and I think it's going to function in that way as well.
Is that what we're doing? We're continuing the stereotype of tattooing by just train them all tattooing and then flood the market when they get out. Yeah, sweet. Oh, great.
Oh my gosh.
So you did that deployment and you found some success. Doing that, and then you came back home, and then did you jump into somebody else's studio right away when you got out, or did you jump right into your own studio?
Excuse me. Originally, the plan was to go back to school, and like tattooing was just kind of like a way to provide for my family while I was trying to go back to college. And so I got back January 24th is when I got back to Washington in 2011, and I was in a shop by January 26th. So I went around and asked every shop in town if I could get a job, and they all called me a scratcher and told me to piss off, basically, just kick rocks. Like, you did things wrong. You're supposed to mentor. It's supposed to be like a 2-3 year internship. And it was just like, I wasn't looking for an internship. I was looking for a job. Right. And I already had a portfolio of like all the work I had done. And they were basically just like, no,
but they didn't respect the way that you had created that portfolio.
Yeah. When I got back from my deployment, I was in Fort Bragg, North Carolina at the time, and I had about 6 months before they were going to let me out. So I did the same thing there. I went around and tried to get a job, and everyone was just like, no, you did this wrong. Wow. So I was tattooing, and
they were expecting you to like go back and start over.
Yeah, it's like start from the beginning, do things the right way. And at the time, it was just like, I got a 2-year-old kid. I got or a year and a half at the time, and yes, I think there's this one shop that let me in. They actually reached out to me because they saw some tattoos that I was doing, because I was doing tattoos out of my watershed in the back of our on-post housing at the time. And somebody saw some of my work, and they're like, hey, tell them to come in here and we'll give them a job.
Oh, sweet.
And I went in there, and within like the first 10 minutes, this guy was like almost in a fist fight with his wife. And it was just like, all right, that's a little uncomfortable.
Oh boy.
And then the other guy was saying some stuff that, like, I don't know, some slurs I had never even heard before. And I was just like, wait, what did you say? I was just like, I don't think this is going to be the spot for me.
I don't even know who's supposed to be upset at those.
I was just like, what did you call him? What? So yeah, that was not going to work. So yeah, I didn't last more than like 30 minutes in the first tattoo shop that let me in the door.
You're hired. I quit.
Yeah. I was like, no, I'm good. This is not for me. So that was like, you're mostly going to be tattooing. And then he said it, and I was like, what?
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Moving on.
So that was North Carolina, and then how'd you get out here?
I drove. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. No.
Nice.
My old man was Navy. So I grew up here. Yeah, we moved out here in 91, I believe. So when I was like 5 years old.
It's about the same year I think my folks moved up here.
Yeah. So yeah, my dad was a submariner. Did 20 years. I grew up in Lake Simonton. So right up there, the outskirts of Bremerton.
Yep.
And then went to CK, graduated in 04, joined the Army like in August of 04, and then about 7 years.
Wow. Yeah. So I know you're a friend of Eric Moller's.
Yeah.
Eric's family has also a military background.
Yeah.
When did you guys meet?
I met him, I think through tattooing, honestly. Like, I didn't really know him. I still don't really know him. I'd say we're more acquaintances than friends.
Sure.
Like, we haven't hung out or anything in years. But
shout out to Eric.
We're drinking his coffee this morning.
He's really good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
An unofficial sponsor.
But yeah, I think he came to me to get tattooed when I started up in Paulsville. Is when the same time when he was starting his business, or I think at the time it was his mom's business. And then, and I know he's done a lot. He's opened up like a few different locations and has like a roast going and everything else now. So he's done well for himself.
Yeah. Eric's great.
So when you came to Paulsville, and did you, like you had been in North Carolina, that didn't work out for you. Did you jumped right into another shop?
It wasn't that it didn't work out. I got out,
I
got out of the military.
Well, no. I mean like that tattoo shop.
Oh, gotcha.
That didn't work out at that tattoo shop. Did you go and get a job at another one, or did you?
Oh, no, I just kept on, after all the other shops turned me down and that one was not cool. I just tattooed in my shed until because we got back from the war in I don't think like July or August, and I had until January till I got out. I got out in January 2011. So I just tattooed in my watershed for like the last, 5-6 months, however long that was. And then packed up and sent my family home, and I drove across the country, making pit stops, like a zigzag for everywhere from Marquette, Michigan. And I was trying to make it down to Louisiana to see a friend down there, and I got stuck in that snowstorm. I got stuck in Little Rock, Arkansas for like 2 or 3 days. And I was just like, not really where I wanted to be, but zigzag, went to Texas, went to Vegas, went to San Luis Obispo, California, came up here.
Wow.
All over like the course of 2 weeks. Like I said, I got here like the 24th and I was working by the 26th. But same thing, I went to a bunch of different shops when I got here. They all said the same thing, no thank you. And then a friend of mine, Emma Easton, she reached out to me and she's like, you got to go to this guy. Like he's he's really good and he wants you. He'll take you in. We already gave him the heads up and everything. So he was like the last person I went and talked to. I was about to give up. Wow. And he looked at my portfolio and he was just like, all right, yeah, come on, let's do this. And kind of took me under his wing. Seemed like a really nice guy at first, and then things just didn't work out. It just, Yeah. So after about 6 months of working with him, I was just kind of like, had bad experiences with tattoo shops, and I was just like, these guys are crazy. Like, I was like, I don't think I want to do this at all. So, I went home, and at the time you had like 2 years after you got out of the Army where you could collect unemployment, whatnot, and figure yourself out. So it was like, I think I was on unemployment for about 2 months before my wife kicked me out of the house. She was like, you got to go get a job. Like you can't
That's a good wife.
You can't be here moping around
That's
anymore.
That's a good wife.
Ex-wife, sorry. So,
that's a good ex-wife.
That's a good ex-wife. Yeah. I don't want to insult my girlfriend at the time. No. Why do you still call her wife? I'm sorry. My bad. It's the only one I ever had. So it's just, I tried doing what was it called? The engineering program or whatever that OC had for a second.
Oh, yeah. Because
it was like, I could get a job at the Corps of Engineers in Fort Lewis or something like that. So I want to do like project management or construction management, something in that field. Yeah. And I signed up for that, and they canceled the program like a week or two before it started because there wasn't enough people enrolled. I was just like,
they needed one more.
I was like, all right, so, and then I checked out like the fire department and did some ride-alongs, and like day one, like the smell from like, I think we went into somebody's house, and it was like Hoarderville, and very, just smelled like they had been sitting in their own feces for a while. And I was just like, I don't think I'm cut out for this, like blood I can handle, but like.
Both Michael and I have extensive medical history. We both worked in the hospital for 8 years or so. It's
good on you guys, man.
You put the mask on with the I don't know what you used to do, Michael, but we used to put like peppermint essential oils in the mask. And
I'd have to do the same with tattooing from time to time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Every once in a while, there's some hippies that come in.
Forgot their deodorant.
Hippies need tattoos too.
Yeah, hippies need, but at least shower first. If you got to sit with you for 6 hours, can you shower? It's It's not asking too much, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's a good way to get an infection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we say that in the
because
emergency room.
you're
It's like, if
dirty.
you're gonna have an emergency today, can you at least take a shower?
Yeah.
It's not my needle, it's you.
It's actually usually it's the gym rats that are the worst. They're like, "Oh, sorry, I'm late. You know, I just got out of the gym." And I was like, "You didn't shower,
gross.
did you?" And then, like open up their arm, you get the inside of their arm tattooed. It's like, "You're a jerk, dude. Why are you doing this?"
Great way to get staph right off the bat, dude.
It's just rude. I don't know if they just can't smell themselves or not, but like this is a PSA. Please shower before you get tattooed.
Please shower before you get tattoos.
Yeah, please.
At least wash the area.
Yeah, something, man. But
So then, after 6 months, you were with that guy for 6 months, and then trying to get a job with the Corps of Engineers didn't really work out. So,
Yeah.
And so, at what point were you like, you know what, I can do this better, and started thinking about doing your own official studio?
yeah, I mean, there was so much going. So I was enrolled in the Art Institute of Seattle at the time as well for audio engineering.
Oh, cool.
And video and stuff. So I ended up dropping out of that and dropping out of tattooing at like the same time. Like all my plans just kind of combusted. So then, yeah, tried to get into school, and then that kind of fell through. And then I was just sitting there, like, what am I gonna do? And I just kind of depressed. And then I think I woke up one morning at like 4 a.m, just thinking like, man, I just want to be good at something. You know, I've been kind of athletic, like kind of musically talented. You know, I could kind of draw, but I was never really like
Yeah, man.
good at one thing. And I think I just woke up with like a fire under my ass, just like at 4 a.m, like, and I just started drawing.
Wow.
And I just started drawing. And it was like an owl, and then a skull, and then a koi fish, and then a this and that. And I just, next thing I know, I was tattooing in my kitchen again. And the same lady who like got me the job, Emma Easton, her husband Eric came over and got like a koi on his leg, and started tattooing a few other people. And basically the same thing that happened in North Carolina, where like, you know, a shop found out I was tattooing and kind of hit me up, and I wouldn't say strong armed, but he kind of made it sound like, you know, you better come work for me or you're going to like get fined and go to jail, you know, like you're going to get caught, you know, because tattooing, being a scratcher is illegal. And he kind of like, I think he exaggerated it, you know, to try to scare me into like coming working for him a little bit.
A little manipulative.
Like, yeah, you know, guys out here getting in trouble for that. It's a huge fine.
Oh, my
You might want
gosh.
to come work at a shop. So I did. I ended up working for him for a year, and then same kind of scenario, that didn't really work out.
Wow.
And it was like, if I'm going to keep on doing this, I got to do it on my own, because like I'm not really getting along with these guys. And so I'd worked in Bremerton, and then I worked in Port Orchard, and after that, kind of burned all those bridges with those relationships. After things didn't work out, it was I kind of got blacklisted, like nobody give this guy a job, you know, he's an egomaniac or something. I don't know what they were saying. People didn't like me. You know, it's like I came in, I did an apprentice, everybody knew each other in this town. You know, there was only a few shops. I think at the time there was like 7 or 8 shops. And it was just kind of, you know,
You're sort of a black sheep.
it was kind of a black sheep. Yeah. I was like, who's this guy who just got out of the army, came back to Kitsap? Like someone was telling, ended up working at the mall at that shop Deep Roots for a couple months. You know, they were the only one who would let me in, and talking to them, the mall shop got a lot of flack from everybody. It was like, a tattoo shop in the mall, that's gross, you know, but
Then they tried to open up that weird jockstrap coffee stop right next to the kids' play area, so they can't talk.
yeah, but those owners were actually really cool. Kat and Ryan, they were respecting me. They were really nice with me. They were fair with me. It was very professional. I didn't like working in a fishbowl in the mall and having people sit there and watch me. That was a little weird. But I was straight up with them. I was like, hey, I'm going to open up my own little spot in Paulsbo. You know, can I work here for a few months while I save up money to do that? And they were totally cool with it. And I was just like, I'm bringing all my clientele. So can I have a fair percentage? And they were cool with that. And I was just like, all right. And then I was like, this guy kind of wants to work with me, so can he come work with me here too? And then we can see if we like each other. And then we're both going to head out. And they're like, cool. So
Wow.
everything was fair.
Sweet.
I think they were already planning on shutting down the location anyways. So it was like they were just trying to get as much money as they could before they shut it down.
Yeah.
So it was like, it helped me, it helped them. And it was, it was a good relationship.
Yeah.
I met this lady, Christy Lundgren, who was working at the mall at the time. And she was an amazing artist, really cool person. So it was like, it was me, this guy, Colt White, and Christy Lundgren. The three of us ended up opening up in Paulsbo, but under my name. And at the time it was just, I was just trying to make as much money as possible. So I'd fly up to Alaska because they charge more up there, because there's like 4 shops in Anchorage at the time. And there's like 450,000 people up there.
Oh, wow.
Versus Bremerton, where it was like, 10, 15 shops and like 30,000 people.
Interesting. Huh.
So you could charge more in Alaska and, a lot less competition. And I linked up with a guy up there who was like the first one to
way
figure
more
out.
depressed people sitting inside thinking of what they can get tattoo wise.
No, it's really nice in the summer, actually. You got 24 hours of playing in the sun. So it's, they're pretty happy.
That's good to hear.
It's the darkness in Alaska is a lot different than Washington. Like even when it's really dark, like there's still like the loom from the sun hitting the snow. Right. So it's kind of bright.
Oh, interesting.
But versus here where it's just gray and wet and cold and dark.
Yeah.
But up there it's like a crisp cold,
James is from Alaska.
Yeah.
The owner of Rabbit Hole. Anyways.
But like I remember it'd be 0 degrees in Alaska and I'd come down here and it would be like 40 degrees and it felt colder here than Alaska. I know, just the wet cold like seeps into your bones.
Yeah, dude.
Like, this hurts.
Yeah, 40 degrees feels like negative something or other just because of how uncomfortable you are. Yeah. And then 80 degrees feels like some kind of weird, it's just like, it's we have mild everything, but it's still a weird place.
So when you started your shop as a new business owner, I mean, I can only imagine that comes with, we've talked to a lot of business
owners. Was it called
owners.
Woodwork there too?
Yeah. Originally it was going to be the Treehouse, but then there was a place in Banbridge called the Treehouse.
Oh, okay.
So it was like
cafe or whatever, Treehouse Cafe or something?
Yeah, I think it's Treehouse Cafe, something like that. But because when I had the idea for tattooing, like it was the same kind of thing happened, like where I woke up 4 a.m. and just started drawing. It was like the same thing happened in the Army, where it was like I was sitting around drawing on we had this thing, the pre-deployment training that they send you to, where I had drawn up the tattoo design for this guy, Zebulon Zeiler. But I was sitting on this cot and I like woke up one morning at like 4 a.m, grabbed some paper and I just started drawing like the floor plans for like a business. And I wanted it like my first deployment, a bunch of guys like made booze on the side, like hooch wine and stuff. Sweet. And then we called each other the Wisens, it was like, cause I think their favorite beer was like Hefeweizen. So they just shortened it and were like the Wisens, cause they were like making booze in a tent in Iraq at the time.
Booze and tattoos.
So it was like, I knew I wanted to do music and I always wanted like a recording studio. And I knew I wanted, to work with my friends and they made booze, and then drawing and tattooing seemed like, okay, so I was like, yeah, you could have like a tattoo shop upstairs and you could have a venue and then you could have like a brewery and it would just be like a trifecta of like, and just work with all my friends. And I remember, and I called it the Treehouse, like the tattoo shop would be upstairs.
Bremerton's own Willy Wonka.
And it was just an idea at the time. And I don't know, I woke up, drew it out and put it away and just didn't really think about it again until I was doing it. Yeah. And then, so my shop in Paulsbo, obviously it was like, there's no brewery, there's no music, there's no anything like that. It's just tattoos. But yeah, it was supposed to be the Treehouse. And then since there was that other business, I was like, all right, that name's not going to work. What am I going to do? And, it was actually kind of an inside joke. The name was like, cause everybody was talking about at the time, about so many shops opening up and they're like, yeah, all these scratches are coming out of the woodwork, and so it was just kind of like a little stab back at them, everyone who was hating on me. I'm like, yeah, we're coming out of the woodwork, And this one artist had told me, he's like, yeah, if you don't like the shops that are here, move on and go somewhere else. And like, we don't need any more shops. I was like, where are you from? He's like, are you from Louisiana? You're like, I'm from here. Like, I went to school here. Like, joined the military, came home. If I want to open up my business in my hometown, I'm going to do it. You know, like, so the name actually had nothing to do with my last name. It was more a stab of everyone talking shit. But and it just so happened to be my last name was Wood at the same time.
Yeah.
But
So how long has it been officially in business at this point?
Since 2013. So yeah, 12 years.
And are you just are you do you have employees? You're on your own, or
Everybody's like a sole proprietor. Everyone's a contractor.
they get like chairs like at a barbershop or something?
Basically, yeah. So we have like just a percentage basis and stuff. It's a very fair percentage, and I provide a lot of stuff. And like we have a shop manager who, even the shop manager is like, their business is, I'm a manager. Like, I manage businesses. I don't set their hours. They set their own hours. Like that. I think that's one of the requirements for being a sole prop. Like I can't dictate their hours and whatnot. You know, we just agree on a salary, and they set their own hours and make sure that the shop is managed. And so I was like trying to make it as legal as I possibly can with all the taxes and what it is as legal as it possibly can be. I mean,
completely on the up and up.
Yeah.
So how often are you, as the owner of the place, how often are you doing things that you would imagine a owner of a business doing, like P&Ls and payroll for your
boring stuff,
the 1099s that you got, versus actually tattooing?
So I've been really fortunate. My sister-in-law managed the shop for like 5 years, and over that 5 years, like I really just kind of transferred everything to her, to the point where like I have to call her and ask her how things work at the shop. I'm like,
that's awesome.
Where's the paperwork for this? I got to do taxes, you know? And yeah, I try to treat people really well and pay them really well and reward them for what they actually do and make it worthwhile to stay and help me out, so I could just focus on tattooing. Yeah. So after the first 7-8 years, I really dialed back from having to do too much of the management stuff. And then a couple years ago, you know, my sister eventually she was always up front like drawing tattoo designs on her iPad. And for years, she just make all these really cool designs, but she would never touch a machine. So one day, me and my buddy Kier, we forced her to tattoo us. We like set up a machine. We're like, Sarah, get over here, sit down, tattoo us. So she did like this little cross on me. That was her first tattoo. And she got the bug, you know, and a couple months later, she started apprenticing, and now she's knocking out great tattoos. It's been like 2 years. And so I don't have a shop manager anymore. That broke my heart. But I got a cool tattooer, you know.
How cool is that? Your come up. Everybody was getting on your case for not being mentored. Yeah. And now you've gone full circle. Now you're able to be that mentor.
Yeah, it is strange. At first, it was like I kind of had like a hands-off approach, and I realized like that's not really a good mentor. So then I had a hands-on, and then some people didn't really like that. So it was like, it's always not being mentored. It was always like, I don't know the right way to mentor because I've never been mentored. So I just kind of went back to the military version of how I learned things. It was like, I do, we do, you do. It was like, you watch me do something, we do it together, and then you do it. And then we have an after action review. Like, all right, how'd it go? Like, what were the good things? What were the bad things? What can we do better? You know, what do you need to keep on doing? I just kind of stuck to that. And from person to person, you know, some people need more guidance, and some people just want you to leave them alone. They're just like, I would notice like the more I tried to like control how they did things, and the more I try to micromanage them, like the worse their tattoos would get. And then if I just kind of step back and like let them do the things, that they would relax and do a lot better of a job. So it's like, it's almost like you got to feel out the person. Yeah. And then, some people you really have to be on them, and they want that guidance. Like, what am I doing? What do I got to do now? You know? So it changes just depending on, it's like raising kids, I guess, you know, it's not the same for every single, there are some consistent things obviously, but there's different personalities.
For sure.
So it sounds like to me, there's like the culture in it is a little bit of a mixed bag. It sounds like you've been able to kind of create a healthy culture where people are being treated fairly, and you're kind of the antithesis of all of the bosses that you ran into on your come up.
That was my whole
You're
goal.
not getting in fistfights with your
Yeah.
significant other.
Yeah, that was my game plan in the beginning. It was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but as long as I do the opposite of them, then I should be okay. And I was. Like, we were the best shop in Kitsap County for like 5 years in a row, according to, you know, the Kitsap Sun and whatnot.
Nice.
And yeah, it was just, we went to...
Well, we should have had that in the intro.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, we kicked ass and stuff. There's a long time. Had the same crew for like 7 years. Wow. And then after COVID, there were some disagreements and we split up, and then had some artists that just had to move. Like, husbands were in the Navy, so they had to move over somewhere else. Or a lady from Seattle, Kristen Day, is an amazing artist. She has a shop in Port Townsend. Like, she's moving to Port Townsend and wanted to open her own spot, and so she's doing great. Like, I love to see people do their own thing and succeed. Like, I think that was always, I always knew that was going to happen. Like, coming up in the beginning, like, everybody's learning, everybody's growing, and at some point, it's like, if you're like me, you're going to want your own spot,
right?
You know. So it was like, I'd always be happy to see people, as long as we're good, you know, you can shake hands and move on, do your own thing, and I'd love to help you out any way I can, or like give you any advice I can. Was never.
You don't want to stop someone else's.
Never
progress.
try to hold on to anybody and keep them from growing into what they wanted to be. But
what would you say the overall health of the community is? Like the mindset of the
tattoo community?
Of the tattoo community, yeah.
You know,
because it seems like you're presenting something that for other artists that's like, okay, this is where I want to work because there's a couple of crazy people around here. That it's hard to find a good boss.
Yeah, I think the culture's changed a lot in the time that I've been in it. You know, like, I came in as an outsider and I was kind of like an interloper, and then I had to prove myself by, you know, winning awards and doing good tattoos, and eventually people stopped being mad and then, actually, this guy's kind of good, you know. So, and then, but as far as like hanging out with other shops and whatnot, like, we just kind of, I don't know, we're still kind of doing our own thing. There's a few artists around town that I really get along with and I really enjoy spending time with. Bo McConaughey, who owns Black Dragon and Paulsbo, is like, he's the OG here. The guy's been tattooing for like 30 years. Wow. And he's super talented, still like the most solid work you're going to see, like traditional tattoos and Japanese tattoos and stuff. The guy's, he's awesome. And he's also shreds on a guitar. He's in quite a few bands around here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Bo McConaughey.
Bo McConaughey. Yeah, that would be a good guy for you guys to talk to if you want to talk more tattoos and music.
Oh, yeah.
I know you guys love music, so
yeah.
Bo would be an awesome guy to talk to.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
So what's the have you ever had a client come in and they request something and you strongly suggest no? They should not do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How's that pan out?
Yeah. I mean, some people respect your opinions and some people, you know, want what they want, but
they say, no, I'm drunk, do this before I sober up.
well, first of all, like, we don't work past like 6 or 7, so we're typically not tattooing anybody drunk.
Oh, okay. That's good.
We are right next to a bar, but we close early because of that. Like, we don't.
Smart.
You can't sign a legal document when you're under the influence, and I'm not getting sued, you know, for a drunk tattoo.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's, you know, there's probably some OG tattooers out there like, pussy, this guy, you're not, you know, bring him in, do the tattoos. But I don't know. I'm a family man, and I just have a different lifestyle. I like to come in early. I like to get done early. I like to go home to my family.
That's fantastic.
Are any of those tattoos where you have to say no? Is it like, I can only imagine a lot of them might be on the face, or people that don't have face tattoos that all of a sudden want one?
Yeah, so typically, like, the rules are, if you don't have a sleeve, you're not getting a hand tattoo. You know, if you don't have a sleeve, you're not getting this. But it really just depends. You know, they call them job stoppers. You know, a neck tattoo or a hand tattoo, face tattoo. If you don't have a job, you probably should wait until you have a job. And if you don't have a job, you probably can't afford it. You know, so.
And that's the advice that these individuals are going to hear from the tattoo artist.
Yeah. You know, some 18-year-old kid who wants to look like some SoundCloud rapper, like, no, I'm not doing that. You know? And first of all, you can't afford me anyways.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not. So I'm not really too worried about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't do anything really political or hateful, or I'm not trying to promote myself in that way. So I turn down a lot of stuff like that. I just and then tattoos, that biggest thing today is like all the AI, like the fake stuff that people bring you in. They're like, I want a tattoo like this. And I'm like, well, that's not a real tattoo. Like that's a photoshopped image on somebody's skin. Like you don't, it's not going to work. I'm like, well, they did it. And I was like, no, they didn't. That's Photoshop.
So AI has made its way into your world where people...
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, just people find images on Pinterest and they think that it's possible, but it's not.
I can only imagine as an artist, that's, infuriating to you guys.
The biggest thing, like I try to explain it to people, it's like pixels, like, 1080p or whatever, your 4K, your skin's like not even 200.
Oh, interesting.
You gotta dial it down.
Low resolution.
If every single little pore is basically like a pixel, pores are a lot bigger than pixels, right? So if you're bringing me a 1080p image and you want it on your, 100 by 200 skin,
kidding.
it's like it's not gonna work, man. So you really have to like blow things up, and like bold will hold is kind of like the term we use. Big and bold. That's why traditional tattoos are still so famous and like so sought out, because people who really understand tattooing know that traditional tattoos are the best, because they're a third black, a third color, a third skin, and they're going to look like that for the rest of your life. So all this like realism and stuff, and like all the
third black, a third color, and a third skin.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're integrating the person's skin tone. You're trying to do that.
Yeah. You want the tattoo to breathe, because like tattoo it's on like the second or third layer of skin. Your first layer, you get a new layer every year, right?
Okay.
So you're like, it's in between. It's not in the hypodermis, but it's still in the epidermis, and that layer of skin just kind of floats around over time, kind of moves around. So it's going to blur a little bit. Like lines are going to get a little bit bigger over time. But so if you put too much stuff too close together, it all just turns into a blob in 10 years. So you want it to be able to breathe. So, and if you go too deep, like you see guys with like the blown out lines, that's basically the needle's gone into the hypodermis where skin really moves around. And that's why it's like, it just looks like a blurry image, because it's just, the guy was just hammering on you and went way too deep. So you'll get scarring and little blown out lines, and it's got to be right at the right layer.
Wow.
Not too light, not too deep. So like all the fine line, single needle little stuff that people want, it's like not deep enough.
Sure.
So it's like that's just gonna disappear. Or they go too deep and it's blown out. And it's just like, just get a good tattoo. Stop all this crazy stuff.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. It's just, a table has 4 legs for a reason. It's like, yeah.
What's the longest you've had somebody in the chair?
I did like 8-hour back-to-back sessions on a dude, like 2 days in a row. So that's probably the longest I've had somebody sit. But
a guy sat for 8 hours twice?
Yeah. So
Dang.
I think I had flown into Sacramento and tattooed the same guy for a couple days, and then just get him in, get him out. But tried to do a whole sleeve in a couple days.
Will guys call you like people you've had as clients before? So like in that case, like did he pay for your plane tickets and everything to fly out?
Oh no, I think I was going down there anyways. My grandma at the time lived in Manteca, California, so it was like an hour away from Sacramento.
Yeah.
So that was
like, in the tattoo world. Like, is there a lot of like will people travel, like bring tattoo artists?
Absolutely. Yeah, we call them guest spots.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons like we do conventions, so we can meet other artists and like you trade cards, and it's a way to grow and learn constantly. So you're not just sitting in your own stink for too long, smelling your own farts. You meet other people, like trade secrets, and that's all the industry used to be, was flash. Like you would trade flash with other artists or buy flash from other artists and stuff. That's why
What's
you go.
flash?
Flashes.
So when you go in a tattoo shop and you see all the pictures on the wall,
Uh-huh.
like that's all flash. You'd have like 5 or 6 designs on a sheet of paper, right?
Give people an idea of what your specialty is.
Or not just an idea, like that used to be the tattoo. That's what you're gonna get. It's like picking a sticker off the wall. That's what tattooing was for forever. So the whole like custom tattooing didn't really exist until like TLC and stuff. Like
Interesting.
all the like, and then it would just be like you take a piece of flash and you take another piece of flash and you just kind of trace them together or something. No, it's custom. You know, it's like
Dude, I don't
changing
know, man.
this or changing that.
When I worked in the hospital, I saw some custom tattoos on some 80-year-olds. That
Yeah.
were pretty.
A lot of those old tattoos too,
Yeah.
I saw on like the really old folks, like 80, 90-year-old guys from like World War II. They're like, it was like a bunch of neon green, like lime colors and like but they always looked very bad by the time they're 90 years old.
Those were the most offensive tattoos I'd ever seen as well. Like dudes in their 80s who were getting
I know
tattoos
exactly
back then.
which one you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm
And we
not even
probably
going to bring it
shouldn't
up on
say
air, but it's like
at all what it is.
Yeah.
It'll be an off-air
yeah,
conversation.
off air.
No, there's some raunchy ones out there.
People
There's some
getting
funny
wild
ones.
for a while.
Like you said at the time, drunk sailors getting off the boat in Hawaii or San Diego, and they're like, "Yeah, put that on me. Let's
It's like
go."
that's going to be your whole back for the rest of your life, man.
Yeah. I think it was a while before they figured out that machines needed capacitors too. So like the flow and the voltage of the machines back then too was just going. You know, you turn that up to 11 basically, and you watch old tattoo videos. You can hear them. You can see them sparking and be like, and it's just sending it and stuff. But now like everything is German engineering and like people have like crazy lathes and stuff that they're making these very, very scientifically dialed in machines, you know, that are the work that we can do now and the technology and how far it's come and the machine builders that are out there have like redefined the industry to the point where like tattoos are going to last and look better for a long time now because they're applied differently. You know, the needles are better, the machines are better, the pigments are better. Like they're going to last a lot longer than those old ones, you know?
Yeah. Is it a movie or a video game that has there's somewhere that has a gas powered tattoo gun. I can't remember where I've seen that. I think it's like it might be Fallout. I don't know.
Yeah.
Great game.
I had never played the game, but I did watch the show. Great show.
Yeah. This guy behind the camera here is like the #1 Fallout YouTuber on the internet.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Shout out to Skylar.
yeah. Should be our next guest.
I was like, my son used to watch people play Minecraft all the time. I'm like, what are you doing?
I know, dude.
like-
Back in my day, we used to play the video games. That's awesome.
So
I'm trying to figure out how to formulate the question. I mean, the tattoo world is just so vast.
Yeah.
And so like the reason that people come in to get tattoos, one thing that I really appreciate you saying and really warms my heart is how you turning away young kids who are looking to, who haven't figured out where they're going in life yet and are making a rash decision, and they're coming to somebody like you and basically getting guidance. You know, you're like shepherding them away from this thing, and it's I didn't expect that, you know, but it's like just because I hadn't thought about it long enough. But I mean, I think that's and just hearing your story, you know, about how you came up and you were denied and you were disrespected, and you've gotten to the point now.
I mean, I deserve the disrespect to
Sure,
an extent, you know.
sure.
I did it the wrong way. I get that. You know.
Oh, okay. So you'd say that about the way you did it. It wasn't just people being disrespectful.
No, my experience, like the people who turned me down weren't doing anything wrong. I deserve to be turned down. I acknowledge that. The bad experiences that I had at the shops that I did work at were for other reasons that I don't like talking bad about people.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I don't know. That just it's very encouraging to me. How many kids do you have?
Just the one. I got a 16-year-old son. But my lady has a couple kids as well. So we're kind of, so it's still,
You're a dad.
we got a full house right now.
Yeah, but you probably click into dad mode when that 16-year-old comes in wanting a face tattoo.
Oh yeah, well yeah, we can't tattoo anybody under 18 to begin with. I think they were trying to change it to 21 at one point in this state, but I don't know if any states have 21. Some states it's still like 14 or 16. I think Michigan you can tattoo people at 16, which is wild to me. I did a guest spot out there in Marquette, and was tattooing this girl, and I was just like, oh, like, what college do you go to? And she's like, or I asked her, I was like, oh, are you still in school? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, what year? She's like, oh, I'm a junior. I'm like, oh, what college are you going to? She's like, no, I'm in high school. And I freaked out. And I looked at the shop owner like, what are you doing to me, man? Like, why am I tattooing your kid? And he's just like, you trying to get me sued? What are you doing? And he's like, oh, no, it's legal here. Like, their parents are here. It's fine. And I was just like, and I still didn't like it. I was like, this feels weird, man. I don't want to be doing this.
Can't parents bring the kids in and give consent here?
No, not at all.
Did that used to be the case? Because I feel like when I was in, maybe it was under the radar.
It was under the radar, man. Right. Yeah, it was totally under the radar. It wasn't me. Yeah. No, you got to be 18 in Washington, man. Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, not tattooing any kids, not doing anything hateful, not doing anything. Yeah.
But not only that, but providing guidance to kids. It's an opportunity where it's like, I can imagine the kid gets turned down and is probably pissed off, but also like doing them a favor by denying them the thing that you do. I mean, that's
ultimately the kid's going to do what he wants. If it's not us, he's probably going to go to somewhere else, or their friend in their backyard or their kitchen or whatever is going to do it. Like, you can't stop these kids from doing what they want to do. You can't offer your advice. Doesn't mean they're going to listen to them.
Right.
But I'm not going to put my name on that. I'm not going to sacrifice my integrity to do something like that.
Yeah, but kids need to see that.
Yeah.
Kids need to see that, and probably, whatever, young boy is doing that probably didn't have a dad who told him not to go there in the first place, and then he runs into a dad who's doing the tattoos and turns him away. I just think it's a beautiful picture. So thanks for contributing.
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day.
In that way. Yeah, that's right. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah. Most of the artists that I know are in that same wavelength. Like, I don't really associate with anybody who's like trying to take advantage of another person to make a buck. You know. There's some solid artists out here. There's solid people and there's crappy people in every industry.
Right.
So it's who you associate yourself with, I guess. And, yeah.
Well, we're running up on time here.
Are we really?
We are. I think it's been. What time is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry I'm so talkative.
No, man, that's freaking great.
No, so we could go for another 3 hours.
Tell everybody, like, where they can, like, you guys have social media. Where can they find you guys?
Oh, absolutely.
You're in Manette, right?
Yep, in Manette.
Okay.
Yeah, so right there, 2117 East 11th Street, Manette. So right next to Saboteur Bakeries across the street. So it's hard to keep the weight off.
Nice.
Some really good pastries right there. Yeah, we're fortunate. Manette's awesome. You got a cool bar next door. Hound and Bottles right there. Great cocktails, great food. Buddies, if you partake, is
Larry
right there.
And Christie's, right?
Larry and Christie's is on the corner.
Yeah.
I got Cafe Kai right down the street, and the boat shed's all right there. It's a great street to be on. It's a great neighborhood. Everyone treats each other like family. It's pretty cool. There's some salons across the street, the 6-7 or something like that. I think it is now. And it's great. But that's where we're at in a minute. Cool. And then I record music on Sundays. So eventually, it came full circle with, I don't have a brewery, but I am next to a bar. But ended up
Dave Lambert. Maybe Dave Lambert needs to pick up the.
Yeah, and then but I am doing the music part. So we got a stage in the back and do music on Sundays. So Instagram is Manette Radio Hour, and then on YouTube it's Woodwork Tattoo Gallery has a YouTube page, and I post all the music videos on there.
Oh, sweet.
But
wait, so you do the Manette Radio Hour?
I do, yeah.
Oh, dude. I feel like we need another hour now. Shoot, dude. I have all sorts of questions about that. That's cool. Are you're in a band?
No, I'm not in a band.
Okay.
No, I don't really play. I don't even have calluses anymore. But I've played twice in like the last 5 years in front of people. But it went all right. Went pretty fun.
Okay.
Billman from the Weirdos asked me to open up for him like a couple months ago, and he asked me for about a year to open up for him, and I kept telling him no, and then finally I was like, all right.
When you say Bill Mann, is it Bill Mann?
Bill Mann, yeah.
We had Bill on
you had Smokestack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Bill's great.
Yeah, Bill's awesome.
Yeah.
So, he did an interview with this kid, this band, Sydney Graves, at my shop just a couple months ago. So that's the last video that I just put out. And these kids are like between 14 and 16, and they're playing like heavy metal, just
Sweet.
just rocking it, dude.
Yeah.
Those kids would be cool to be on. Speaking of Father's Day,
Okay.
really supportive parents, like really rad kids. Yeah, look them up on the YouTube channel and see that interview that Bill did.
Okay.
And those kids are awesome. And
What's their band name?
Sydney Graves.
Sydney Graves.
Yeah.
We were just we had Kevin Blackwood on and talking about just music and how our this new generation coming up, and if he thought like rock and roll was dead, and kind of talking about that. And I think kind of the resounding answer, you see on social media, and it's a lot of people say, yeah, rock and roll's dead, but I think a lot of people we've talked to say, no, this new generation, they're rockers, man, and they're innovative and doing really fun stuff. So
I've been recording music for like 5 years at the shop now. Like we kind of had like the tiny desk idea, basically.
Oh,
it's just
sweet.
like, instead of desk, we'll just throw a stage in the middle of a tattoo shop, and like that's cool. And so
we gotta go check that out.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm rocking A7S3s. So, and then shooting on that, and then got all mic'd up, got the whole PA over there.
Dude, sweet.
So
Awesome.
It's fun, man. But I've been pretty much doing it by myself for the last 5 years. With like, I'll have some friends help me out here and there, or Johnny Boyce, when I can't figure out how to do the audio mix, I'll send it out to him. I was like, bands kick my ass. I'm just like, I can do the solo artist pretty well. But bands I have a really hard time mixing, so I'll usually get some help from Johnny. And then my buddy Teo Mumson, he had a band out in Paulsbo. He would come and hold a camera, help me record the live sound and stuff. And then but for the most part, it's just me in there by myself, just kind of trying to make it happen.
You got a recording studio, but it's also like there's a performance space?
Yeah, well, it's not a recording. Well, one and the same, just use the room. Our room has an amazing sound to it. Like it's got like a really cool reverb to it. So like when I'm mixing, like I don't put any reverb on the tracks. I just have.
Oh, that's cool.
Michael's in a band, so he has his own band. So his wheels are turning right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Check it out. I mean, watch the videos, see if you like them. And, we can talk about coming out and recording if you want to.
Cool.
But I usually do it at Sundays at 1. I grew up playing music at church on Sundays, so it was just kind of, it made sense. It was like, all right, it's Sunday, go play some music, Yep. So it just
that's cool.
Worked out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, man. We're gonna have to come down and check out that space.
And we'll have to have you on again.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We can talk music next time.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. That's been the problem. Every guest we have on, we do an hour, and it's like, shoot, we just opened the door to like 5 more hours with everybody. Everybody's so interesting.
Eric Mahler, thank you for the recommendation.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
See you guys next week.